And I'm glad you mentioned the meeting there between Trump and Putin. I thought it was terrific. I thought we've had all the naysayers, and we'll talk about one of them a bit later, saying, oh, what a disaster. Putin walked all over Donald Trump, etc. I think we're going to see a deal being done. I think we're going to see it quite possibly in the next week or so. Caroline, the way Donald Trump does things, he's already had plenty of successes in finishing wars in Cambodia, we mentioned them earlier in the show, Congo, etc., etc. Do you think he's going to pull this one off?
I'm probably not as confident as you are, Rowan, just because Putin doesn't seem to be backing down from what he wants, which is territory in Ukraine. And he says that Russia will continue, after this meeting that is, Russia will continue until it gets its key goals. And it's also Trump's moved away from calls for a ceasefire there and for the violence to stop and to a peace agreement, which means Russia can continue fighting until they finally negotiate one. Now, it is very positive that Zelensky is going to come to the White House and he's going to be involved next week, but really there can't be an agreement until there's an agreement reached between Zelensky and Putin. And for him not to have been involved in those initial talks, I think were a problem. So I hope you're right. I really do. And I'm definitely not a Trump naysayer. I do think he could be the great peacemaker of our time. But unfortunately, we haven't seen that happen. Not in Russia. They thought he would fix it straight away. It hasn't happened. Let's be realistic. And not in the Middle East either. But a big part of that is countries like Australia undermining the efforts to negotiate.
I might mention Iran, which was up until some weeks ago was the major nuclear threat in the world, and that's now finished.
He should still get a Nobel nomination.
So between Israel and Russia, we're seeing the both good and bad hangovers of the first Trump administration, right? Yeah. So in the Middle East, what we're seeing right now is the continued success of Abraham Accord diplomacy. That is the Arab League countries, 22 Arab nations, all saying to Hamas, lay down your weapons, clear out, let's fix Gaza. That's a hugely important thing. That never would have happened without Donald Trump in the first term. And incredible,
they show more moral clarity than we do here in Australia.
And it's far more clear. You know, I mean, Australia has taken 3,000 Gazans. How many of the Arab League taken? No. Ask yourself why. Put that aside. Russia. The other big thing here, and this is the great problem Trump has here, is so much of the media, and we see it here, they are still believers in the 2016-17 Russia hoax, right? They still believe that Donald Trump was a Russian agent. This is sort of the way that they explained his victory the first time, the way they explained his victory this time. Somehow, it's this Putin, Russia thing.
Completely
so this means
debunked.
That anything for them, for the left, and as a child of the Cold War, to see the left media now being maximalist, anti-Russia, anti-Moscow types is pretty funny to me. But put that aside, this now means that nothing that Trump does will seem like a win to so many of his detractors in the press. If they come to some sort of deal where there are some provinces in eastern Ukraine that had voted, that they'd want to be part of Russia, where they're ethnically Russian. If there's some, deal where some of that goes to Russia and their security decrees or guarantees, and Zelensky says, fine, they'll still say Trump gave in to Putin. There will be no way that Trump will be credited with any sort of win. And
it was interesting that Putin came out and said what Trump wanted to hear, that
can I just make one more point?
There would have been no war had Trump been in the White House.
Yeah, and I think we all know that's true. But beyond that, though, it's also just geopolitically really dangerous to have a world where, you don't have leader-to-leader communication between Russia 100%. And the United States. Like, think about this. Obama met with Medvedev a million times. He met with Putin. Other presidents met with Putin. It is this idea that we cut off leader-to-leader communication. Ronald Reagan had Gorbachev to the ranch in California. This idea that you don't have leader-to-leader communication, that's so profoundly dangerous. That's how real wars and real crises start.